Hello and welcome everybody to our today's Just Planet webinar. Today I would like to give you an update about the new functionality that we just published with our new version, actually activated on Monday afternoon German time. But before I start off, I would like to give you some upfront information that most of you guys, I'm sure, know already. As this is a GoToWebinar, all attendees are automatically muted, and this is due to optimizing the quality of audio. And second, if you have any question, then I kindly ask you to either use the chat box here of that webinar or write an email to one of us, so like to the team, and I, as always, ensure that you will get an answer. So every single question that is um, reaching us will be answered for sure. Okay, so then let's start off. My name is Elmar Karlovic, and I'm Managing Director and co-owner of Netronic Software, which is a German-based company that provides Just Planet. Just Planet is a standard cloud-based software specially made for high-mix, low-volume manufacturers. And now let's see what we have developed in our last sprint of year 2022. And here is the overview of enhancements of the new version that, as I said, is or was published last Monday. So first, what we did is we enhanced the performance of visualizing the scheduling data in the Gantt views. So this is true in general. So the overall performance of visualizing got a bit better. But in particular, what we did also is that we made fast actions as scrolling and zoomings better now. Second, what we did is we added functionality to the new tablet client. So what did we add? So with the new version, you will also get approval functionality for the planner role within the tablet client. And doing this consistently, we also added the functionality that you need if you are running the chief operator workflow. So what we also developed is the functionality to check and hand over the shop floor data for the chief operator workflow. And last but not least, in the tablet client now, there is also undo and redo buttons. Third, what we did in the main client now, there is drag and drop functionality to change sequence numbers in the Gantt view. So now via interaction, you can change the job's priorities in the job view. I will show you later on. Second, what you can do, you can also grab resources within the resource group view and change the sequence number of the resources. And this also has a scheduling impact, as you guys know, because also resource priorities, are then considered based on the sequence numbers. Last but not least, you can also drag and drop resource groups in the resource view and resources in the resource view, but this will just have an effect on the visual arrangement in the view. Okay, so that was the overview. And let's start off with the first one, enhanced performance. And I'm going to show you how that looks and feels like in the application itself. Oops, sorry, I'm switching to my Just Planet account. And therefore, actually, I need to go. Where do I find my Just Planet account? Here we go. No, that's not. Here we go. Okay, so here, Just Planet user interface, main client as we call that. And now overall showing you that visualizing data is better than in beforehand. So that's kind of a matter of trust. So here you can believe us, that we made some measurements, but I can show you how it looks like now if you're doing fast interactions. So let's start off with zooming. So like if we do a very quick zooming and zooming here, I'm hovering with my mouse over the time scale and using the mouse wheel. And with that, I can zoom in and out. And here you can now see that there's kind of a hatching pattern first, but very quickly afterwards, the data that you want to see in that respective scale is loaded very quickly. So here, doing fast interactions, we jump over the phase of zooming in and out, and we directly load the data that you selected. So like the final resolution when zooming in and out will be the target and will be shown quicker now. And this is also true if you scroll up and down. See, so like if you scroll down, so like here now also the hatching pattern will appear if you really scroll fast. And so we jump over visualizing some data in between, but we will directly load that data when you stop. So there will be no faltering on the display as it was before if you had got a normal data set. So now scrolling and zooming will come along with a better performance. Very in between these interactions, you will shortly have this kind of hatching pattern, but then directly see the data that you intend to see. Does that make sense? Okay, great. So then let's step back and see the additional functionality that we added to the tablet client. So again, that is in principle, this is functionality for the approval process. And additionally, if you have got the chief operator within your scheduling routine, then also the chief operator's functionality is now available in the tablet client. But to give you a little refresh about this scheduling routine, I would like to quickly guide you through actually the most preferred options of how you can structure this scheduling cycle. So see here, the first option is in the beginning, the planner is updating the schedule in the main client. So updating means adding new jobs, and maybe adjusting the availability of resources. Coming up is Christmas, so putting in Christmas holidays and so on. So updating. This updating leads to a updated schedule. This schedule is actually the basis for the work list of the operators in the shop floor. So the operators work in the shop floor and start execution according to the work list and set the shop floor progress data accordingly. And then it is the planner's tasks to approve, or first to check the data and then approve this shop floor data. And once this approval is done, this serves again to an updated schedule and to new work list. So this is actually the scheduling routine when the planner does the entire approval. And what I have seen, this might be the most preferred way of structuring the scheduling routines of our customers. But we have also learned that it can make sense in bigger companies that, and by the way, sorry now, before switching to the other option, I of course wanted to point out that exactly that approval process here now can be done in the tablet client also. So you do not necessarily need to be in the main client as the planner for approval, but you can do the approval as planner also on the tablet client. So the tablet client now becomes also a very, very valid and solid option for the role of the planner. Okay, so that was actually the scheduling routine with the planner approving the shop floor data. And as I said, this is, in my eyes, the option that most of our customers prefer for the time being. But, and now coming back to the second option, but there is a good second option, and this second option foresees that there is a chief operator that checks the data of the shop floor and checks is everything all right, if all data is set, if something is missing, and if the data that was set is correctly set. So why chief operator? So in bigger companies, it might be the case that planners are too far away from the actual shop floor process, to be able to significantly or to ground check the shop floor data. So then it makes more sense to appoint one guy that works in the shop floor or very close to the shop floor and give this guy the task to make a final check of the entire data set before it can be approved. And this guy that is close to the shop floor and that is responsible to do the final check and hand over the data after checking, into, let me call it, the scheduling process. This guy is called the chief operator. We offer this role since a long time, so maybe this is also an option for you. I just wanted to remind all of you that we have that functionality and that this functionality now is also available in the tablet client. By the way, if you install the chief operator, then you can either do the final approval and the final update automatically. We call that the auto approval. The auto approval really makes sense if you have the chief operator that has done the check, or if you're really a guy, that wants to have 100% of security, then you can also have additionally the planner making a final confirmation and approval. But I would say, in my eyes, it makes sense if you have the chief operator checking the data, then you can go for the auto approval. So actually two ways of running the scheduling routine, one with the planner doing the approval, the other with the chief operator doing the approval. But the message here is both ways of workflow of running the scheduling routine now is supported by functionality of the tablet client. And this I'm going to show to you now. So let's start off with the first option where we have the planner approving. So first of all, just to show you here in settings, I'm going into the execution category, and here you can see that the chief workflow now is not activated. So what I show here is now option 1 where the planner will approve. So, and approving by the planner, I don't want to spend too much time on showing you the normal way of approving here in the main client. So actually that you guys are very familiar with. So therefore we switch here to the tablet client, and then you will just see that there is exactly the same functionality just to make the final approval for the planner. So now I switched from the main client to the tablet client. You hopefully are aware of the tablet client and functionality. If not, then I really recommend, that you watch the recording of last webinar where I introduced the entire functionality of this new tablet client, which is specially made, as the name says, to be operated on mobile devices, tablet mobile devices. So, and here you now can see in the ribbon bar that we have the undo redo button in comparison to the last version. So then we have got some grayed out icons that refer to the chief operator workflow. But as I showed to you in this option here, I have disabled this, therefore you cannot make use. So, but then we have got the approval button in here showing that there is data to be approved. If I click, then you get actually on the right, on the panel side, exactly how you are used to it in the main client. You get the summary, and with that, you can update the shop floor data, and with updating, it will trigger a new schedule. Sorry. And as you could see here now, scheduling is done, and that had an impact on the work lists, as you could see on the left side. So actually pretty intuitive for everyone who is familiar with the normal approval process, and the main client now can also be done here within the tablet client. So then just to show it to you for the other option, I made the undo, clicking on the undo. So now I have not updated the data anymore, and it's still waiting to be approved. Okay, so then to activate the process with the chief operator, I'm quickly switching back, and in settings, I will readjust the setting, and then I will enter the tablet client in the role of the chief operator and show how the functionality there looks like. Therefore, we have a quick uploading of the main client here. Let's go to settings, go in the dialog I showed to you before, but then we do not leave it with the chief workflow not activated, but we activate. So now I decided, to have my scheduling routine based on option B that I showed to you on the slide. So now it will be the task for a chief operator role to check the data and, to hand it over to the planner or to auto approval. Okay, so now I activate this. And now I switch to the tablet client, but in the role of a chief operator. Okay, so just need to log in quickly. As you could see beforehand, that was deactivated. So now I'm logging in as a chief operator with having the chief functionality. And here you directly can see this is activated now, and just quickly waiting for my data. So here now I'm chief operator. So chief operators normally should have access to like the entire task list. Yeah. So, but now what we have as functionality is step one, you click on the chief list. And as you might know, or hopefully know from the Video Academy, the chief list is showing you an overview over these operations that include shop floor data that was set by the operators, where either some data is missing or where the data might include some mistakes. So you get a chief list, and the chief list is including the candidates where statistics say, hey, have an extra eye. Please check, there might be something missing or there might be something wrong. So the first, for the laser cutting, we can have a look. So actually what we see is, I just need to get rid of this panel here. Okay, so what we see here is that it has an end date currently of 15 and a start date of 12. So which normally shouldn't be like a big issue. But looking into the welding here, it says by the question mark that normally, due to the initial schedule, this welding process should have been finished. And therefore, the chief operator can check whether this welding operation is really still ongoing or if it is finished in the meantime or was finished in the meantime and the operator here, worker 2, just forgot to set. So this is why it's so important that the one who is tracking the data needs to be close to the shop floor operation. Otherwise, you could not adjust or correct the data. So let's assume that both data sets here are okay. Yeah, so like no mistakes done by the shop floor crew, and the chief operator says, okay, fine, and then clicks this approval button here. And with this approval button now, the planner gets the information, okay, the data of end of shift was set and was handed over for final approval. And then the planner either can directly approve or you go for an auto approval, but this is a normal way, how you would check it. So, and if we then switch back to the operator client in here, so then, the main client in here, then you would see, after the chief operator has approved it, then you can make a final approval, or if you have an auto approve, which I recommend, then e.g. at 5 o'clock, this data will directly be updated and trigger a reschedule of the entire process. Okay, so this was the additional functionality to wrap it up. So now the operator client was enhanced in a way that you do not only get functionality for the operators to set the shop floor progress in a very easy way. Additionally, now, if you like, you can also do the approval process in there too. So the operator now is, in my eyes, a very valid option also for the role of the planner if it comes to approval. Okay, then let's finally have a look into the third category, and this was drag and drop interactions. So just once again, with the first two bullets, the interaction will have an impact on the scheduling itself. So changing job priorities, so like the more important the job, the earlier it will get the required resources, no doubt about that. If you change the sequence number within a resource group, then the sequence number of resource is mirroring the preference of the resource within the group. And the higher the lower the sequence number, so the higher the priority, the faster this resource will be taken to be scheduled for a referring operation. And the two others just have visual arrangements, but let's have a look again into the application, how that looks like. Okay, so let's start off first with the job view. So like here in the job view, in the table part, we have got a lot of jobs, and the sequence number you can see at the very left of the table part. And the sequence number is always showing the priority of your jobs. So currently here, my job number 1 has sequence number 1, means is the job with the highest priority. That PO002 has sequence number 2, second highest priority, and so on and so on. You guys are very familiar with that. So like before, to change sequence numbers, what you need to do is that you open the dialog by clicking on the sequence number, and then this dialog here enabled you to change sequence numbers, right? That's, in my eyes, very familiar to you, but now as an alternative, you can also drag and drop a job. So like if you go on a job and keep the mouse left clicked, then you can see that this job now can be extracted from its original position. And then you can see if you, e.g., scroll a bit up, then a yellow line appears, and the yellow line will show if you finish the drag and drop interaction where the job will be positioned after the interaction. So like currently I have got the sequence number 11, and if I would just go by here, it will be positioned on sequence number 7. So, and if I leave it with that, so then the interaction starts, the scheduling run is done, and then you can see now I've got a new position and I changed the sequence number with a drag and drop interaction by setting a new sequence number, right? Does that make sense? So very intuitive. Now even the table parts of our application is getting interactive. Also, what you could see is that, you get an indication. So like if you're just like here somewhere in an area, where tasks are shown in a position where you're coming from, then you also get like this forbidden indication warning, and that says if you drop here, nothing will happen, right? So, and if you just do it in a way where it makes sense again, yeah, so then the yellow line will appear and there is no forbidden symbol. And if I drop it in there directly, the interaction will start and the job will get a new sequence number according to where you drag and drop. So that's all about the jobs. So now let's switch to the resource group view. So here in the resource group view, let's focus on the interaction first, that is referring to the sequence number within the group. And once more, I would like to explain. So like here, currently, my worker number 2, or let's go with the finishing here. Let's go with the finishing. So like here in finishing, worker number 1 has sequence number 1. That means if I theoretically would have all resources within finishing totally idle, and then a request for finishing operation will come, then worker 1 will be preferred as worker 1 has sequence number 1. So worker 1 will be considered first. If you would put worker 3 into the first position and everybody would be idle, then worker 3 will be the first one to do finishing. I guess it makes sense. So like here, the sequence numbers have an impact on scheduling. So let's do the same here. So I'm grabbing worker 7 in here, and then the same visualization takes place. Yeah, you get the yellow line, keep the worker 7 here, keep the mouse left clicked, and if I drop, then the new position will be directly realized. And as the position here also has impacts on scheduling, there will be a scheduling run to see the new workload of worker 7. And by the way, just to see if that makes sense, here, in my eyes, putting worker 7 in the first position was not a good decision, because here now my total throughput time increased slightly and I made use of buffer. So like actually here, this kind of interaction was not really good. But in principle, the interaction or the way of how you can do it now, I guess, is pretty clear. So let's go for the 2 other options we have for dragging and dropping. So now we have got a bonding machine in here, and we want to bring that somewhere up. Okay, so like here we go. want to position it just at this point. But now you could see I was able to drag and drop it into the position I want to have it. So last but not least, we are switching to the resource view, and here you can also drag and drop resources, but this has no impact on scheduling, so it's just, as I called it, an arrangement within the visualization. So like here, worker 7 obviously is at the bottom due to some reason, and if I want to drag and drop worker 7 into the workers area here, then I can directly do. That's, I guess, very intuitive. Okay, so that was the drag and drop functionality. I guess dragging and dropping in the resource-centric use is something that is not of interest every day, maybe more in an initial phase when setting up the software, but dragging and dropping the jobs in the job view to set the sequence numbers, that's really a cool feature. Okay, so then this was the overview over the enhancements of the new Just Planet version that is running since Monday. And that was the last sprint that we made in 2022. And with that, I thank you very much for your attention. I wish you Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays, and a very good start into the new year. So for 2023, we have got a lot of ideas. Currently, we are working to finalize our roadmap for the upcoming years. We are not finished yet, but what we aim at is publishing the next Just Planet version beginning of February 2023. And I can ensure that for the next year, we will continue our path in enhancing the software permanently on a more or less monthly sprint basis. And here we will again focus to provide very, very useful and beneficial functionality on one hand side, and then on the other hand side, we are very aware that performance will be a topic always. Also, I can ensure that we will keep our path in regards to hearing to what you are saying. So if you have comments, if you have got requests, ideas for the upcoming year, I'm very happy to receive your feedback on any channel. So use the chat box or write an email. Just get in contact with us and share your thoughts. I am really looking forward to hearing and speaking to you in 2023. And with that, thank you for watching this webinar. Take care and bye-bye.